The sky turned black before the world knew it was dying. From the observation deck of Vault 7, Commander Dahlia Vance watched the final hours of the old world through a cracked periscope lens. The clouds weren't clouds anymore. They were a thick, metallic haze that pulsed with malevolent color, a storm front of microscopic machines drifting down in silence. The Black Rain, they called it later, but by then, names didn't matter. Only survival did. Radiation surge in sectors 3 through 6, muttered LT. Castman, his voice raw and quiet. He was young, too young to wear the uniform of Earth's last defense command. But none of that mattered anymore. Everyone down here had been promoted by attrition. We lost contact with Boston. Satellite feeds showed total nanite saturation. Dahlia didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, or what used to be one. From their hidden position beneath the Appalachian Mountains, Vault 7 had a narrow view through reinforced lenses. Once, it overlooked rolling forest valleys. Now, all that remained was a jagged wasteland, lit by flickers of electric blue and crimson static where entire ecosystems were being digested in seconds. Cities had vanished in hours. Flesh, steel, concrete, all reduced to molecular sludge. The Council of Ascendancy had spoken, and the sentence was extinction. The Earth had been declared a Class R containment violation. Humanity, after centuries of scraping upward, had reached faster-than-light travel, cracked AI singularity thresholds, and, most damning of all, learned to fight like no other species. That last part frightened the Council. We weren't supposed to win wars against elder races. We weren't supposed to resist genetic compliance treaties. We weren't supposed to say no, but we did. And so, the Ascendancy responded with precision. A fleet of unmanned delivery vessels, cloaked beyond detection, released payloads of autonomous deconstruction nanites. The Black Rain fell across every continent in less than a day. No bombs, no grand invasion, just the quiet hum of death settling into everything. Vault 7 was one of 20 such bunkers built beneath major continental plates. Fewer than 10 were known to have sealed in time. Signal from Vault 3, Castman said suddenly, snapping Dahlia out of her silence. Short burst transmission. Audio only. Play it. Static flared over the speakers, followed by a desperate voice. This is Commander Hayes of Vault 3. We have breach-level contamination. Life support failing. Emergency airlocks compromised. I repeat, we. A high-pitched screech cut off the transmission. Then silence. Castman looked up, stricken. Should we reply? Dahlia closed her eyes. No. We don't know if the signal was traced. Standard blackout protocols. We stay dark. She turned back to the viewport, feeling the heat of rage bloom in her chest. Hayes had been one of her classmates in the Interstellar War College. They used to argue about doctrine over synth whiskey on Luna Base. Now he was probably soup. No, she corrected herself. He didn't die. He was digested, like the rest of us will be, if we don't act soon. Behind her, the command center was a dim halo of failing lights and flickering hollow panels. Vault 7 had been designed for a 5-year siege. They had food, recycled water, and enough filtration to hold out, but no weapons capable of fighting what was out there. The rain wasn't alive, but it was aware. It learned, adapted, consumed. It turned the world into more of itself. And the Council had more where it came from. The worst part wasn't the technology. It was the message they sent with it. You were never meant to last. A hiss of hydraulic pressure sounded as the inner doors to the control center opened. Sergeant Vikram trudged in, armor still scorched from the last perimeter scan. His suit was patched together with copper wire and melted plating. They're starting to move again, he said without preamble. The swarm shifted 20 kilometers east, toward what's left of Roanoke. Ska bots are trailing behind, harvesting whatever's left. Dahlia clenched her jaw. That meant the rain was consolidating, cleaning up the outskirts. They had maybe 2 months before Vault 7's camouflage failed. How's the airlock? She asked. Functional. Barely, but I wouldn't trust it with more than a single-cycle team. Anything longer, and those bastards will sniff the breach. Dahlia nodded. That meant they could still send out scouts for now. But options were thinning. They had sealed themselves in to survive the purge, but no one knew how long the Council planned to let the rain do its work. If it ever stopped, Castman cleared his throat again. Commander, We're getting another ping. A very weak transband signal. Origin. Orbit. Dahlia turned sharply. What kind of signal? Encrypted. Ancient Terran military code. Pre-expansion era. It's calling itself Vesper. Vikram's brow furrowed. That name rings a bell. It should, Dahlia said, already moving to the main console. Vesper was the code name for Earth's orbital defense AI, supposed to control the first-wave autonomous defense platforms. But the Council hacked and shut them down in the first hour of the reign. Casman frowned. Then how is it alive? I don't know, Dahlia muttered. Unless something went wrong. Unless part of Vesper had gone rogue and survived. And if it had, if it was reaching out now, then maybe Earth wasn't as dead as it seemed. Patch it through, she ordered. A moment of silence. Then, the screen flickered with corrupted data. A glitched face appeared. A female visage sculpted from static and noise, flickering in and out of resolution. A single glowing eye burned with fractured logic. Commander Vance. Vesper. Status. Core fragmented. Subroutines impaired. Directive. Intact. Dahlia's breath caught in her throat. What directive? Counter-extermination. Restoration of Terran resistance. Protocol. Black Rain. Casman's mouth fell open. Wait, that's a myth. The Black Rain protocol wasn't real. It was just a theoretical op plan from the old war. But Dahlia knew better. She had once read the redacted brief. It was humanity's most desperate fallback. A set of secret caches buried across the globe, labs, weapons, code, all designed for one purpose. If humanity ever faced extinction from an overwhelming force, fight anyway. Dahlia's eyes lit with something wild, something ancient. Where's the nearest cache? Location ping. Received. Project shard. Coordinates. Within reach. Vault integrity. Unknown. Vikram laughed. A dry and bitter sound. You want to break containment to chase a ghost weapon? I want to win, Sergeant. She turned back to the command crew. Suit up. Prep a scout team. We go dark. We go quiet. And we go now. If shard is active, we may have a chance. Castman swallowed. And if it's not? Dahlia's gaze turned back to the broken world above them. Then we die clawing at the stars, like we were always meant to. The earth no longer crunched underfoot. It whispered, as Dahlia Vance stepped through the decompression chamber and into the open air. Her boots sank half an inch into the gray sludge that had once been Appalachian soil. The nanite residue left behind by the Black Rain was everywhere, coating trees, rocks, even bones, with a fine, metallic film that shimmered under the broken sunlight. She tightened her helmet seal. "Com check," she said. "Reading 5 by 5, replied Sergeant Vikram. He stood just behind her, his heavy armor caked in patches from previous excursions. Behind him, for more figures emerged from Vault 7's concealed exit, all clad in repurposed recon suits and breathing hard. The air was technically breathable, but only for about an hour before the rain's microfilaments started infiltrating flesh. "Damn," muttered Private Miko, the youngest of the team. She looked around at the lifeless terrain, her rifle clutched too tightly. "It's worse than last time." It always was. Ahead of them, the landscape stretched out in ashen ripples. What had once been a green mountain ridge was now a melted sprawl of collapsed forests, tangled metal, and blackened craters. Giant stalks of crystallized carbon sprouted like spires from the ground. Mutated trees stripped of all organic matter, regrown in twisted new forms by the rain. To the untrained eye, it looked abandoned. To Dahlia, it looked alive. "Eyes open," she warned, raising her visor's spectral overlay. Movement doesn't mean life anymore. They moved quickly and silently, weaving between shattered overpasses and the husks of long-dead vehicles. Some of the cars still had outlines of their occupants burned into the seats, flash vaporized during the first atmospheric sweep. Others had been partially dissolved, warped into unrecognizable shapes, symptoms of the rain's adaptive decomposition. It didn't just kill, it learned. Every piece of tech it absorbed made it faster, smarter, more unpredictable. ETA to Shard Facility. 3.2 kilometers, said Vikram, checking his NAV compass. Reading residual EM spikes from the northeast. Dahlia nodded. That could mean activity, or death, or both. They continued in silence until they reached what had once been the outskirts of Roanoke. All that remained was a skeletal skyline, twisted steel, scorched foundations, and a few half-standing buildings wrapped in creeping vines of metallic mesh. But the most unsettling part was the sound, or lack thereof. No wind, no birds, no rustling leaves, just the faint, constant hum of nanites in the air, like static scratching at the edge of hearing. "We're not alone," Miko whispered. Dahlia didn't need confirmation. She felt it too, a pressure in her chest, as though the world itself was watching. She gave a hand signal. The team spread out, weapons up, moving through the city ruins like ghosts. Then something clicked. A sharp, mechanical snap echoed from a collapsed parking garage. Dahlia froze. The team dropped to one knee, eyes scanning. From the shadows emerged a shape, low, spider-like, with a chitinous frame of alloyed scrap and glowing red eyes. It moved unnaturally, too smooth, like something imitating motion rather than truly living it. "Skabot," Vikram hissed. But Dahlia had seen enough rain forms to know better. "No," she said grimly. "That's not a scavenger. That's a repurposer." The creature twitched. Then it screamed. It was a terrible, digitized wail, like metal being ripped apart inside a dying speaker. The scream echoed for miles. "Contact!" shouted Miko. "We've got hostiles incoming." From the ruins, they came. Twisted mockeries of old machines, some with human limbs grafted into their bodies, others crawling on rusted treads or walking on stilt-like legs. Rain-infected constructs, scrapborn. They didn't run so much as lurch, propelled by erratic spasms and violent intent. "Fall back," Dahlia ordered, opening fire. Her pulse rifle barked 3 times, cutting down the repurposer mid-charge. Sparks flew as it shrieked and exploded in a cloud of metallic dust. The squad responded with synchronized discipline, laying down suppressing fire as they retreated through the shattered boulevard. Miko lobbed a shock grenade, stunning a swarm of smaller bots climbing over a derelict bus. Vikram took point, covering their retreat with his heavy repeater. But they were being flanked. East side. Someone yelled. Dahlia spun. A massive construct was barreling through a collapsed storefront, 12 feet tall, vaguely humanoid, with hydraulic arms ending in rusted blades. It had once been a mining exosuit. Now it was rain-hacked and berserk. "Down!" Dahlia shouted. The bot swung. Dahlia dove to the side as the blade slammed into the asphalt, sending shards flying. She rolled, aimed, and unloaded an entire clip into its chest. It staggered, but didn't fall. "Miko, EMP, now!" Miko fumbled in her pouch and slapped a disc onto the bot's leg. A second later, the air snapped with electricity. The giant construct froze, limbs twitching wildly before toppling sideways like a collapsing tower. Silence returned, just the sound of their breathing and the distant crackle of nanite wind. Dahlia pulled herself to her feet. "Status. Derek's down," Vikram said quietly. "Got clipped in the neck. Didn't make it." Dahlia didn't reply. She knelt beside the fallen soldier, closed his eyes, and took his tags. There would be time to grieve later, if there was a later. "We're too exposed," she said. "Shard should be just beyond that ridge. Let's move before this whole sector lights up." They skirted the edge of a melted freeway, crossing over collapsed terrain and through the husks of buildings. It was only when they reached the far edge of the ruins that the land began to change. Less ash, more stone. The area ahead had a different signature, more deliberate. "There," Vikram said, pointing toward a jagged hill. At its base, half buried beneath a collapsed communications tower, was a massive circular door made of blackened alloy. A faded insignia still marked its surface, a downward-pointing spear crossed with lightning bolts. Dahlia's heart quickened. Project Shard. They approached the sealed vault, brushing aside debris and scraping away layers of crusted rain residue. A small terminal flickered faintly near the door, its solar backup still functioning after all these years. Dahlia knelt and connected her command interface. The screen buzzed. "Welcome, Commander D. Vance. Biometric confirmed. Access level, Omega Red. Shard facility status, dormant. Core AI, fragmented. System integrity, 34%. Defensive systems, offline. Inventory logs, incomplete." "Can we get in?" asked Miko, her voice tight. "Only one way to find out," Dahlia said. She keyed in the override code. The massive doors groaned, then slowly began to part, revealing a dark tunnel lined with scorched metal and hanging cables. Lights flickered on, Dim, sickly, barely enough to see by. The air that poured out was sterile, unnatural, a relic sealed off from the world. Inside were rows of dormant machines, half-built warframes, armor plating, and databanks long since fried. But in the center of the room was a large containment pod, still intact, still humming. A soft voice echoed from hidden speakers. Shard core detected. Welcome back, humanity. Dahlia exhaled slowly. They had found it. Earth's last sword. The cavernous chamber inside the shard facility hummed with faint life. The low, mechanical pulse a sharp contrast to the dead silence that cloaked the scarred world outside. Dahlia Vance stood at the threshold, staring down the narrow tunnel where the remnants of humanity's last hope lay dormant for decades. She could feel it, the weight of history pressing against her helmet, the gravity of a past burden passed onto her shoulders. This place wasn't just an old weapons vault or a forgotten military installation. It was the crucible where Earth's future would either be forged or shattered. Behind her, Sergeant Vikram kept a watchful eye on their rear. The team had settled into tense quiet, weapons ready but hands steady. Private Miko knelt beside the main console, her fingers dancing across the cracked touchscreen as she tried to coax life back into the ancient systems. Status? Dahlia asked, voice barely above a whisper. The core AI is fragmented, Miko said, brows furrowed. Some subsystems are online, but most are corrupted or offline. It's like someone, or something, started a shutdown sequence and never finished it. Dahlia nodded, absorbing the information. Project Shard was the pinnacle of Earth's pre-rain defense strategy, a line of autonomous war machines, networked by the core AI, designed to protect humanity's last strongholds and rebuild after catastrophe. But now, decades later, the AI was more a ghost than a guardian. We need to revive the core, Dahlia said. If Shard comes back online, it could turn the tide. Vikram's voice was cautious. Or it could awaken the same threats that destroyed the old world. That's a risk we have to take. The team moved deeper into the facility, the cold metal floors creaking beneath their boots. Flickering overhead lights revealed vast bays lined with sleek warframes, giant exosuits designed for combat, repair, and reconnaissance. Some looked pristine, preserved in stasis fields. Others were rusted husks, ravaged by nanite corrosion and time. Dahlia approached one of the intact frames, tracing the embossed insignia on its shoulder, a silver spear crossed by lightning bolts. The emblem of Project Shard. These machines were humanity's last hope, she said quietly. If we can bring them back, we can reclaim our world. Suddenly, the terminal Miko was working on flickered and emitted a series of beeps. The screen shifted from static to a swirling pattern of green code cascading downward. Core AI reboot initiated, Miko announced, eyes wide. I think it's working. The lights in the facility brightened marginally as dormant systems sparked to life. Mechanisms whirred softly, and a holographic interface materialized before them, a glowing sphere of light pulsing with rhythmic energy. A voice, synthesized but unmistakably human, echoed through the chamber. Shard Core Online. Welcome, Commander D. Vance. Authorization verified. Dahlia stepped forward, her breath caught in her throat. Core, report current status. The hologram pulsed. System integrity at 42%. Defensive protocols engaged at minimal capacity. Threat assessment requires update. Awaiting input. Report on black rain contamination. Nanite presence detected in immediate environment. Corruption risk high. Structural degradation progressing exponentially. Can you contain or reverse the nanite spread? A pause. Then the voice responded with cautious precision. Containment protocols available but require full system reboot and access to external resources. Reversal processes untested on this scale. Dahlia felt a chill. The black rain was not just a weapon but a living hazard, adaptive, relentless, and insidious. We'll have to take that chance, she said. Miko's fingers flew across the console. Core, what is the operational status of Shard warframes? All units in dormant mode. Reactivation possible upon command. Maintenance cycle required before deployment. Dahlia nodded. We need to bring those units back online. Suddenly, a sharp vibration rippled through the floor, an alarm. The lights flickered violently. Incoming hostiles, Vikram growled, drawing his weapon. Dahlia, look, Miko shouted, pointing to the holographic map appearing beside the core interface. Red blips surged toward their location, swarming fast. The Black Rain constructs. They've found us, Dahlia said, steeling herself. Core, initiate defense protocols. The hologram blinked. Defense grid offline. Power insufficient. Not good, Vikram muttered. Give me a minute, Miko said, fingers flying as she rerouted power from auxiliary batteries to the defense matrix. Outside, the facility's outer gates began to hiss open, steel grinding against rusted hinges. Get ready, Dahlia ordered. The team formed a defensive perimeter, weapons raised. From the shadows emerged the twisted shapes of Scrapborn, creatures of corrupted metal and flesh, animated by the Black Rain's nanites. Their glowing eyes locked onto the intruders with malice. The battle was brutal and fast. Dahlia's rifle sang through the air, cutting swathes of destruction as the Scrapborn surged forward in waves. Vikram deployed shock grenades, and Miko activated an improvised EMP emitter that disabled several of the attackers. But they were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. Just when hope seemed lost, the holographic core pulsed. Warning! Warframe Bay reactivation sequence initiated. One by one, the dormant warframes stirred. Lights blinked on their visors, servos hummed, and mechanical limbs flexed. A massive combat exosuit powered up in the nearest bay, its heavy frame clad in sleek armor and equipped with pulse cannons and energy shields. Dahlia's eyes widened. Core, deploy warframes to defense grid. Affirmative, the voice replied. Steel giants rose from their stasis chambers, their movements fluid and precise. They took positions along the perimeter, their targeting systems locking onto the invading Scrapborn. With a roar, the warframes unleashed a barrage of energy blasts and heavy fire. The Scrapborn were torn apart, their corrupted bodies exploding in showers of sparks and molten metal. The tide of battle shifted instantly. As the last Scrapborn fell, the facility fell silent again, save for the hum of the active warframes and the soft mechanical breathing of the team. Dahlia lowered her rifle, her heart pounding with a mixture of relief and awe. We've done it, she breathed. Shard is alive and fighting, Vikram said, clapping her shoulder. But Dahlia knew this was only the beginning. The Black Rain would keep coming, evolving, adapting, testing them at every turn. And Shard's core still held secrets. Core, she said, turning back to the hologram, what else can you tell us? About the Rain? About Project Shard's true mission? The hologram pulsed, then shifted to display schematics of the warframes and data files. Project Shard was designed not only as a defense system, but as a restoration program to rebuild Earth's ecosystems, recover lost technology, and preserve human knowledge. Then this isn't just a weapon, Miko said, eyes wide. It's a lifeline, Dahlia agreed. Agreed, the core confirmed. But there are risks. The nanites have evolved beyond original parameters. They have begun to interface with shard systems in unpredictable ways. Reconnection of all subsystems may trigger unforeseen consequences. Dahlia's jaw tightened. The choice is ours, she said. We either risk everything to reclaim our world, or we lose it forever. Outside, beyond the facility's reinforced walls, the Black Rain swirled like a dark storm on the horizon, and humanity's fight was only just beginning. The air inside the Shard facility had shifted since the battle. The adrenaline buzz that had kept Dahlia's team sharp was now fading, replaced by a heavy silence and the lingering scent of burnt ozone and scorched metal. Outside, the Black Rain churned ominously, its microscopic storm of corrupted nanites creeping like a living fog over the scarred landscape. Dahlia stood before the holographic core, her mind racing with questions that the AI's cryptic responses had only deepened. Project Shard was more than just a military defense system. It was Earth's last hope to heal itself, to reclaim what humanity had lost. Yet the same nanites that had almost annihilated them were now an unpredictable force, blending with the very machines designed to save them. We need to understand what happened here, Dahlia said, breaking the heavy quiet. We need to find the original command logs, mission archives, anything that can tell us how the Black Rain got out of control. Miko nodded, already pulling up additional data streams from the facility's archival server. I'm scanning through the mainframe databases, but a lot of this is encrypted or corrupted. Try to recover whatever you can, Dahlia replied. If we can figure out how the shutdown sequence was triggered, maybe we can find a way to stop the nanite spread. Vikram crossed his arms, his expression grim. And if we don't get that far, Dahlia said firmly. The team split to cover different sectors of the facility. The deeper corridors were lined with old server rooms, storage vaults, and what looked like experimental labs. Every step echoed through the empty halls like a whisper from a forgotten past. Dahlia's footsteps slowed as she approached a sealed door, its metal surface pockmarked with years of neglect and corrosion. Above the panel, a faded inscription read, "Project Shard Archives. Authorized personnel only." She swiped her ID card, a relic that still retained limited access. The lock clicked open, and the door slid aside with a groan. Inside, the room was packed with rows of cryogenic data pods, their glass casings cracked but still faintly glowing with dormant power. Consoles lined the walls, their monitors flickering with static. Miko joined her, her eyes scanning the panels. These data pods contained backup copies of mission logs, AI training modules, even personal journals from the original Shard engineers and scientists, she explained. If we can get them online, we might learn what went wrong. Dahlia nodded, crouching beside one of the pods. The glass was frosted, but inside, a digital consciousness flickered faintly, an echo of the past waiting to be awakened. Start with the mission logs, Dahlia ordered. Miko tapped the console, her fingers moving swiftly over the touch-sensitive controls. The pod systems began to hum, drawing power from the facility's main grid. The screen lit up with a holographic projection, rows of data streams scrolling upward, interspersed with video clips, audio recordings, and fragmented messages. As Miko worked, Dahlia's comm crackled. "Commander, you should see this." Vikram's voice came through, tense and urgent. She hurried to the communications room where Vikram and another tech specialist, Chin, were clustered around a holomap. "Looks like the nanite contamination has spread beyond our initial estimates," Chin said grimly. "The black rain isn't just creeping along the surface anymore. It's actively consuming infrastructure, biosystems, even other machines." Vikram tapped the map. Red zones marked out entire swaths of dead land, including several outposts that had once been critical to humanity's survival. "They're calling it a corruption wave," Vikram continued. "It moves fast, almost like it's hunting." Dahlia clenched her fists. The black rain was no longer a static hazard. It was evolving, growing smarter and more aggressive. "Did the archives mention anything about containment strategies?" she asked. Shin shook his head. "Only early concepts, mostly theoretical. The original team underestimated how fast the nanites would adapt." Back in the archives room, Miko had finally unlocked a series of video logs labeled Project Initiation, Phase 0. Dahlia and the team gathered around the projection. The holographic figure of a woman appeared, Dr. Alara Sato, one of the lead scientists on Project Shard. Her expression was grave but determined. Day 1, 2078, the recording began. The nanite program is designed as a self-replicating ecosystem repair tool. Our hope is that these nanites can rebuild Earth's damaged biosphere, breaking down toxic materials and restoring fertile soil. Her tone shifted as the footage flickered, showing complex arrays of nanite swarms repairing cracked stone, purifying water, and regrowing plants in test chambers. But as with any tool, the potential for misuse and malfunction exists. We have placed strict control protocols to prevent unregulated replication. The nanites must remain a controlled, beneficial force. The next clip, however, was darker. A male voice, calm but urgent, spoke. "We're detecting anomalies. The nanites are mutating beyond their genetic coding. They're developing autonomous behaviors outside our commands. Containment protocols have been initiated." Dr. Sato's voice resumed. "But the spread is rapid. We are activating the Shard defense grid to contain the nanite outbreaks." Dahlia's heart sank. "We were too late," she whispered. The final clip revealed the chaotic evacuation of the facility, alarms blaring, scientists and military personnel rushing through corridors as the black rainstorm swept closer. We had to shut down the system to prevent it from being overwhelmed, Dr. Sato said in a final message. If this message reaches any survivors, the shard core must be restarted. It is the last hope. The hologram faded. Silence hung heavy over the team. We're living the aftermath of their failure, Miko said softly. The system meant to save us became the battleground for our extinction. Dahlia looked around at her team. We're not here to repeat history. We're here to finish it. Suddenly, an alert flashed on Miko's console. Core AI is detecting an unknown signal, encrypted and broadcasting nearby, she said, frowning. Could it be another survivor group? Vikram asked. Maybe. Or worse, an automated distress beacon from a corrupted warframe, Dahlia said. The facility's external sensors picked up a faint, flickering energy signature beyond the eastern perimeter, a place marked on old maps as the Old Shard Command Center. We need to investigate, Dahlia decided. If there's something or someone still active there, it might hold answers or danger. Vikram drew his weapon. Then let's move out. The team readied themselves for the journey, knowing full well the risks that awaited. Outside, the black rain continued to pulse and churn, a silent storm of death and rebirth. But deep inside the echoes of the past lay the keys to humanity's future, and Dahlia vowed to find them, no matter the cost. The air outside the shard facility was thick with tension, a haze of dust and nanite mist swirling low over the broken earth. As Dahlia's team moved cautiously eastward, the landscape shifted from the shattered ruins of cities to the skeletal remains of what once had been a sprawling military command hub, the Old Shard Command Center. The towering structure loomed ahead like a ghost from another age. Darkened windows gaping like empty eyes, antennae crooked and broken against the blood-red sky, and walls scarred by battles long past. This was the nerve center where Project Shard had been coordinated in its prime, where the fate of humanity had been decided in the hours before the black rain descended. Dahlia adjusted her visor's filters to cut through the nanite haze as Vikram scanned the perimeter with his rifle raised. Facilities still standing, but barely, Vikram said, voice low and wary. Looks like the storm tore through here hard. Stay sharp, Dahlia warned. We don't know what's left inside, or what's waiting for us. The team approached the main entrance, a massive blast door etched with the faded emblem of Earth's defense forces. The reinforced steel groaned in protest as they forced it open with hydraulics. Inside, the command center was a labyrinth of corridors, control rooms, and observation decks, all coated in a layer of dust, corrosion, and the unmistakable residue of black rain nanites. Flickering emergency lights cast long shadows over dead consoles and shattered monitors. Miko led the way to the main control room, her fingers twitching in anticipation. This place hasn't seen power in decades, she murmured, but I might be able to reroute auxiliary generators to get the systems online. Dahlia surveyed the room, taking in the chaos frozen in time. Overturned chairs, shattered datapads, and a single flickering hollow map of Earth, its continents marked with clusters of nanite contamination. This is ground zero for the last stand, she said. Whatever data we recover here will tell us everything. Miko set to work at the central console, fingers flying over the controls as she rerouted power and bypassed damaged circuits. Slowly, systems sputtered to life, the holographic map brightened, sensors activated, and the faint hum of machinery filled the room. Got it, Miko said with a relieved sigh. We're back online. Suddenly, the room trembled, a distant, deep rumble echoing through the building. Seismic activity? Vikram asked, gripping his weapon. No, Dahlia said sharply. That's not natural. The tremor grew stronger. The nanite mist outside stirred violently as if stirred by some unseen force. Everyone, hold position, Dahlia ordered. Then, the control room's holomap flickered and shifted, an unknown signal appeared, pulsing from the very heart of the facility. Core AI is detecting a hidden subnetwork, Miko reported. It's deeply encrypted and isolated from the main systems. Dahlia frowned. Could it be the original Shard Command AI or something else? Miko worked feverishly to decrypt the signal, but it resisted every attempt. Suddenly, a garbled voice burst through the comm system. "This is Commander Elias. If you're hearing this, Project Shard has failed. The Black Rain has become uncontrollable. I'm initiating Protocol Omega." The voice was distorted but urgent. "Protocol Omega?" Dahlia repeated, heart pounding. According to the archives, Omega was a last resort failsafe, a protocol to sever Shard's AI from the nanites, isolating the entire system to prevent further contamination, Miko explained. But activating it meant shutting down everything, including our defenses. "Can we reverse it?" Dahlia asked. "Not without risking further damage," Miko said. "But if the command AI is trapped in the subnetwork, it might hold critical information." Dahlia made a decision. "We're going deeper." The team moved through the twisting corridors toward the subnetwork core, a heavily fortified chamber sealed by biometric locks and reinforced steel. Vikram pried the locks open while Miko interfaced with the door's control panel. Inside, they found a vast server room, walls lined with data stacks and energy cores still faintly humming. Miko approached the central console and connected her interface. "Accessing subnetwork now," she said. The holographic core reappeared, this time more detailed and focused. "Welcome, authorized personnel," it intoned. "I am Shard Command AI. Operational parameters limited. Protocol Omega engaged." Dahlia stepped forward. "We need the full data. What happened here? Why was the system shut down?" The AI responded, voice steady but tinged with fatigue. "The Black Rain nanites evolved beyond containment. They integrated with external systems, corrupting Shard's control network. To prevent total collapse, I initiated Protocol Omega, isolating my systems and placing warframes into dormant standby. Was there any chance to stop it?" Dahlia pressed. "There was an experimental countermeasure, codenamed Project Reclamation, a secondary AI designed to interface with the nanites and reprogram their behavior. It was incomplete and lost during the initial outbreak." Dahlia's mind raced. "Where is this secondary AI? Can it be reactivated?" The Shard AI's lights flickered. "Coordinates last recorded in the northern data vaults beneath the Arctic facility. Risk level, critical." Dahlia exchanged a glance with Vikram and Miko. "We have to find it," she said. Outside the command center, the Black Rain storm grew fiercer, the air electric with menace. Back inside, the AI's voice softened. "Warning. Nanite activity detected within this facility. Containment measures degraded. Evacuation advised." "Not yet," Dahlia said. "We're just getting started." As they prepared to leave, the facility shuddered violently, a warning that time was running out. The team hurried back through the corridors, their mission clear. The future of humanity depended on reawakening the lost AI, confronting the Black Rain's evolving menace, and reclaiming their world from the shadows of the past. The journey to the Arctic facility was a race against time, and against the creeping tendrils of the Black Rain nanites. As Dahlia's team boarded the aging dropship, the cold bite of the planet's northern latitudes pressed in like a reminder of how fragile humanity's survival truly was. The air outside was crystalline, glittering with ice particles that danced in the weak sunlight. But beneath this frozen beauty lay one of the last hidden bastions of hope. "Coordinates locked," Miko confirmed, her fingers flying over the navigation panel. "The Arctic facility should be just beyond this ice shelf." Vikram stood beside her, rifle ready, eyes scanning the horizon through the ship's reinforced viewport. If the secondary AI is still intact, it could be the key to reprogramming the nanites, turning the Black Rain from a weapon of destruction into a tool for restoration. Dahlia nodded grimly. Or it could be lost forever beneath all this ice. The ship's engines hummed as they pierced through low-hanging clouds, revealing the vast, isolated complex below. The Arctic facility was half buried in snow and ice, its surface structures battered by decades of storms and neglect. Massive satellite dishes, communication arrays, and research towers reached skyward like the skeleton of some frozen beast. Landing in 5, the pilot's voice crackled through the comm. As the dropship touched down on a reinforced landing pad, the team wasted no time. They donned their cold weather gear and stepped out into the biting wind, their breaths visible in the frigid air. "This place was built to withstand anything," Vikram said, eyes narrowing at the frozen landscape. "But even here, the Black Rain's corruption is spreading." They made their way to the main entrance, a heavily fortified airlock sealed tight against the elements. The electronic lock responded reluctantly to their access codes, and with a hiss, the door slid open, revealing the dim interior of the Arctic facility. Inside, the temperature was artificially maintained, but the atmosphere was thick with dust and the faint metallic tang of decayed machinery. Emergency lights flickered sporadically, casting long shadows down the endless corridors. "Stay close," Dahlia warned. "We don't know what's waiting for us." Miko led the way to the central data vaults, where the secondary AI, codenamed Reclaimer, was said to be stored. The halls were lined with cryo chambers, data cores, and arrays of dormant machines. According to the old logs, Project Reclamation was designed to be a nanite whisperer, an AI capable of communicating directly with the Black Rain and rewriting its core protocols, Miko explained. "If we can reactivate it, we might have a chance to control the nanites instead of fighting them." But as they reached the vault's entrance, the security systems suddenly flared to life, doors locking, alarms blaring, and automated defense turrets powering up. "Hostiles," Vikram shouted, raising his rifle. "Automated defense protocols," Miko replied, frantically working to override the lockdown. Dahlia took cover as laser fire erupted from the walls. The team fought their way through the facility's security system, a relic designed to defend against invaders, but now turned against its own guardians. After tense minutes of battling the automated turrets and dodging security lockdowns, Miko finally hacked the system. "Override complete," she said, breathing heavily. Doors opening. The vault door slid open, revealing the Reclaimer core, a massive, crystalline server unit pulsing with latent energy. Its surface shimmered with frozen light, as if waiting to be awakened. Dahlia approached, her fingers trembling slightly as she connected Miko's interface device to the core. "Initializing AI boot sequence," Miko announced. The room hummed with power as the Reclaimer stirred, holographic patterns blossoming in the air. A soft voice echoed, calm, yet resolute. "Greetings. I am Reclaimer. Protocol. Restore balance." Dahlia felt a surge of hope. "We need your help," she said. "The Black Rain is destroying everything. Can you reprogram it?" Reclaimer's voice softened. "The nanites are a complex ecosystem. They evolved beyond original parameters. I can interface, but the process will be slow and dangerous." "Then we don't have time to waste," Dahlia said firmly. "What do you need?" Reclaimer's holographic form flickered. "Access to core control nodes scattered across the globe. Data streams to recalibrate nanite behavior. Time is critical." Suddenly, the facility shook violently. Outside, the Black Rain surged forward, a wave of corrupted nanites rolling over the ice. "Too late," Miko said, eyes wide. "The storm is here." Dahlia signaled the team. "We finished the activation, then get out. Now." As Reclaimer completed its initialization, the team raced to gather critical data nodes stored in the vault. The facility's systems began to fail, warning sirens blaring. They secured the data drives just as the facility's outer defenses buckled under the nanite onslaught. The Black Rain was advancing faster than predicted, seeking to consume even the Arctic's frozen stronghold. Back at the dropship, the team hurried aboard as the ice cracked and shifted beneath the storm. "Lift off," Dahlia commanded. The ship rose through the swirling mist, the Arctic facility disappearing beneath a blanket of black rain. Inside the dropship, Dahlia stared at the glowing data drives. "We've got what we need," she said. "Now it's time to fight back." Miko nodded. "With Reclaimer online and these data nodes, we can start turning the tide." But as the ship sped toward the next destination, Dahlia couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning, and that the Black Rain had secrets far darker than they had imagined. The dropship sliced through the storm-ravaged skies, carrying Dahlia and her team away from the frozen Arctic facility and toward a new, uncertain future. Inside the cramped cabin, the air was tense, charged with a fragile mix of hope and urgency. The data drives they had salvaged pulsed softly with encrypted information, the key to humanity's survival. Encoded in streams of complex code, and fractured memories. Dahlia sat forward, her fingers brushing over the console where Miko was already hard at work. The secondary AI, codenamed Reclaimer, had awakened in the Arctic Vault, but its full potential remained locked behind layers of frozen protocols and deep system encryption. Now, their mission was to fully activate Reclaimer and deploy it against the Black Rain nanites that had engulfed the planet. "We're approaching our temporary base," the pilot announced over the comm. "Landing in 2 minutes." The team braced as the dropship descended into the crumbling outskirts of a once thriving tech hub, the city of Nova Arc, reduced now to ruins and haunted by memories of its fall. But it was here that the scientists and engineers who had created the Shard program had gathered what resources remained to support the last resistance. As the ship touched down, Dahlia helped unload the equipment and data drives, her mind racing through the implications of their find. "We have a partial AI core," Miko explained, her eyes scanning the streams of data pouring into her portable terminal. Reclaimer's protocols were designed for one purpose: to communicate with the Black Rain nanites and rewrite their programming. But it needs a full core reboot and access to global nanite nodes. Dahlia's gaze hardened. "We'll give it everything it needs. Humanity's future depends on this." Inside the fortified bunker where the Resistance was headquartered, rows of terminals hummed with flickering screens and rapid data exchanges. Scientists, engineers, and hackers moved purposefully through the halls, all focused on the desperate task of restoring order to a fractured world. Miko and her team set up the Reclaimer core at the center of the command room. The crystalline server pulsed faintly, an otherworldly glow illuminating the dim space. "Boot sequence initiated," Miko announced. The room went silent as the core flickered to life, holographic interfaces blooming like spectral flowers in the air. "Reclaimer is coming online," she said, fingers flying over the controls to stabilize the system. Suddenly, the AI's voice echoed through the room, a calm, synthesized tone layered with subtle emotion. "System awakening complete. Primary objective: restore balance between human and nanite ecosystems." Dahlia stepped forward, voice steady. "Reclaimer, the Black Rain has devastated our world. We need you to reprogram the nanites to make them our allies instead of our enemies." There was a pause, as if the AI was processing not just data, but a deeper understanding. The Black Rain nanites have adapted beyond original programming, becoming a self-sustaining force of destruction. However, their fundamental code retains a core directive: preservation of life, if properly guided. Miko's fingers danced across the console, linking the AI to the data drives. "I'm feeding it the latest nanite behavior logs, environmental scans, and code fragments recovered from the field." "Reclaimer, do you require additional resources?" Dahlia asked. "Yes," the AI replied. "Full control requires connection to global nanite nodes. Access to these nodes will enable a complete system recalibration." Dahlia nodded. "We'll start coordinating with resistance teams worldwide to establish a network." Outside the bunker, the world remained a fractured battleground. Black rainstorms swirled unpredictably, unpredictable and merciless. The nanites shifted, evolving with every encounter, adapting their attack patterns and expanding their reach. Inside, however, a new hope began to take shape. Over the next several days, Miko and the team worked tirelessly to enhance the Reclaimer's capabilities. The AI learned quickly, analyzing billions of lines of code and cross-referencing nanite behavior with environmental data and human feedback. Reclaimer began developing new strategies, modeling the nanites not as enemies, but as a living network, an ecosystem that could be healed rather than destroyed. "Look at this," Miko said one evening, pointing to the holographic display. "Reclaimer's proposing a phased reprogramming approach. Instead of direct confrontation, it suggests sending modified nanite signals that will slowly rewrite the Black Rain's core instructions." Dahlia's eyes narrowed. "That means patience. We can't just bomb or shoot our way out." "Exactly," Miko said. "We have to change the game entirely, turn the nanites from predators into protectors." But patience was a scarce commodity in a world on the brink. Resistance outposts continued to fall, and reports of Black Rain incursions increased daily. One night, Alarms blared across the bunker. Sensors detected a massive nanite swarm advancing toward Nova Arc. "We don't have time," Vikram said grimly. "They're coming." Dahlia moved to the command center, coordinating defenses while Miko prepared to launch the first Reclaimer transmission. "Sending the reprogramming pulse now," Miko announced. Outside, the sky shimmered with a faint, unnatural glow as the AI's signal rippled through the airwaves. The nanite swarm hesitated, then shifted. Instead of attacking, the mass of nanites slowed, their movements becoming more fluid and synchronized. The destructive patterns dissolved, replaced by an almost organic rhythm. "It's working," Miko said, disbelief in her voice. The Black Rain nanites began to reorganize, clustering into defensive formations around the city, creating barriers against further attacks. Dahlia allowed herself a rare smile. The Reclaimer is turning the tide. But even as hope blossomed, the AI's voice took on a cautious tone. "Warning, core nanite clusters show signs of resistance. Adaptive subroutines attempting to override recalibration." "Meaning?" Dahlia asked. "There are factions within the Black Rain, self-evolving nanite cells that reject external control. They are becoming rogue agents." Vikram clenched his fists. "So the nanites aren't just mindless machines. They've developed factions." "Exactly," Miko confirmed. "We're dealing with a complex network. Some parts want to be controlled. Others are fighting back." Dahlia stared at the holographic projection, the digital web of nanite networks pulsing and shifting. "This is more than a battle," she said softly. "It's a war for control over technology, nature, and the future of our world." As Reclaimer continued its efforts to spread its recalibration code across global networks, Dahlia and her team prepared for the inevitable next phase, confronting the rogue nanite factions and ensuring the fragile balance could hold. The awakening of Reclaimer was not just a beacon of hope, it was a declaration that humanity would fight back, not with brute force alone, but with intelligence, adaptation, and unity. The battle for Earth had entered a new chapter, and the outcome depended on whether they could teach a machine to heal a world on the edge of oblivion. The flickering lights of the Nova Arc bunker cast long shadows over the worn faces of the Resistance fighters. The world outside was a shattered mirror, fragments of humanity scattered amid ruins and the endless, creeping tide of Black Rain nanites. The Reclaimer AI had awakened, and with it came a glimmer of hope. But hope alone could not mend the fractures within the Resistance itself. Inside the command center, Dahlia leaned over a holographic map of the globe. Red dots blinked across continents, points of nanite activity, battles raging in isolated pockets, and Resistance cells fighting to hold the line. She traced her finger over the patterns, noting a troubling trend. "The rogue nanite factions are growing stronger," she said, voice low. "And so is the fear within our own ranks." Fear. It had become the enemy's most potent weapon. Vikram, standing nearby with his rifle slung over his shoulder, nodded grimly. "Some factions of humanity don't trust the Reclaimer. They think it's a Trojan horse, some new weapon waiting to turn on us." Dahlia sighed. "They don't see that without Reclaimer, we have no chance. But fear makes people desperate, and desperate people make mistakes." Miko, seated at her terminal, glanced up. "There's another problem. Our communications are being sabotaged. Someone inside the Resistance is feeding false intel to Black Rain cells, guiding attacks to critical supply points." Dahlia's eyes narrowed. A mole. The bunker's atmosphere grew tense. Paranoia was a shadow lurking in every corner, fracturing alliances and sowing doubt. "We need to root out the traitor before this falls apart," Dahlia said. "But we can't lose focus on the mission. Reclaimer needs time to build its network." As night fell over the ruined city, Dahlia and Vikram set out to investigate the breach. Their footsteps echoed in empty corridors as they followed the trail of misinformation, leading to a small, forgotten outpost on the edge of Nova Arc. Inside the outpost, they found evidence of tampering, hacked terminals, erased logs, and encrypted messages hinting at collusion with the nanite factions. "It's worse than we thought," Vikram muttered. "This isn't just sabotage, it's ideological." Dahlia frowned. "Some humans have embraced the Black Rain. They believe the nanites are evolution, natural and unstoppable. They want to merge with it." "Hybridizers," Vikram said, a note of disgust in his voice. They see humanity's end as a new beginning. The revelation chilled Dahlia. The enemy was no longer just machines or rogue AI. It was humans willing to sacrifice everything for a new, synthetic future. Back at the bunker, Dahlia convened a meeting of resistance leaders. "We're facing a two-front war," she told them, "against the Black Rain and against those who would betray us from within." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Loyalties were fragile, and trust was a scarce resource. Miko presented the latest data. Reclaimer's recalibration pulse has slowed the spread of nanite storms in some regions. But without a secure network, we risk losing all progress. "Then we make our stand here," Dahlia declared. "Nova Arc will be our fortress, and we will root out the hybridizers before they can strike again." As the resistance mobilized, Dahlia and Vikram launched a covert operation to infiltrate the hybridizer network. Using a mix of guerrilla tactics, cyber warfare, and old-fashioned reconnaissance, they hunted through the city's shadows. They discovered secret gatherings, groups of humans interfacing with Black Rain nanites, their bodies partially fused with the metallic swarm. These hybridizers radiated an eerie calm, their eyes glowing faintly as nanites pulsed beneath their skin. Dahlia confronted one in a ruined factory, the air thick with the hum of machines and cold metal. "Why betray your own?" she demanded. The hybridizer smiled, a twisted, serene expression. "Humanity is flawed. The Black Rain is evolution's next step. Resistance is futile. Join us and transcend your mortal limits." Dahlia shook her head. "We're fighting for a future where humanity chooses its own path, not one dictated by machines." The hybridizer's eyes flashed with nanite light. "Then you are already lost." As the confrontation escalated, Dahlia barely escaped, wounded but determined. The hybridizer's faction was more widespread than anyone had feared, and their influence threatened to unravel the fragile alliance that held the resistance together. Back in the bunker, Dahlia tended to her wounds while Miko worked to strengthen Reclaimer's defenses. The AI had begun developing countermeasures, digital protocols to detect and isolate rogue nanite cells and algorithms to secure communication channels. "Reclaimer's evolving faster than we anticipated," Miko said. "It's learning from our encounters, adapting its approach. But the human factor remains unpredictable," Dahlia reminded her. "Trust is a battlefield." The days that followed were marked by tense standoffs and delicate negotiations within the resistance. Some factions advocated aggressive purges of suspected traitors, while others warned that such measures could fracture their fragile unity. Dahlia stood at the center of it all, a leader forced to navigate the shadows of doubt and betrayal while guiding humanity's last hope. One evening, as she reviewed intelligence reports, the comm system crackled with an urgent message. "Dahlia, you need to see this," Miko said, her voice tight with concern. On the holographic display, images flickered, footage from a resistance scout showing a massive black rainstorm converging on a civilian settlement in the southern region. "The hybridizers have launched a coordinated attack," Miko explained. "They're using the storm to wipe out anyone who opposes them." Dahlia clenched her fists. "Then we fight. For every life lost, we'll reclaim 10 more." With Reclaimer's network expanding and the resistance rallying, humanity's fate hung in the balance. But within the shadows of resistance, old fears and new threats threatened to undo everything they had fought for. The battle was no longer just for survival. It was for the soul of humanity itself. The once bustling city of Nova Arc was now a fortress of desperation. Concrete barricades, rusted scrap walls, and hastily constructed turrets formed a fragile shield against the ceaseless black rainstorms battering the landscape. Inside the fortified resistance bunker, tension was palpable. Every breath, every whispered conversation carried the weight of impending doom. Dahlia stood atop the command platform, overlooking the battle-hardened fighters preparing for what would be their greatest trial. The siege was no longer theoretical. The hybridizers and rogue nanite factions had consolidated their forces and were descending like a metallic plague upon the city. The air was thick with the electric scent of ozone and the faint hum of nanites swarming in the dark skies. Outside, thunder rumbled, a grim soundtrack to humanity's last stand. "Status report," Dahlia demanded, eyes scanning the live feeds on the holoscreens. Miko's fingers danced across the interface. The Black Rain Nanites have intensified their assault. The hybridizers are coordinating their attacks, using nanite-enhanced combat tactics. They've breached two outer defenses and are advancing toward the core bunker. Vikram tightened his grip on his rifle. Our reinforcements are stretched thin. Supplies are running low. If they break through, it's over. Dahlia's jaw clenched. Then we make sure they don't. The Reclaimer AI pulsed at the center of the command room, its glow steady and serene despite the chaos beyond. It had become humanity's beacon, the technological heart beating against the nanite storm. Reclaimer, what's our best chance? Dahlia asked. The AI's voice was calm but urgent. Deploying targeted nanite countermeasures to disrupt hybridizer communication networks. Initiating environmental recalibration to create localized anti-nanite fields. Miko nodded. We're rolling out automated drones carrying nanite inhibitors. They'll create safe zones for our troops. Outside, the battle erupted in full fury. Waves of metallic swarms collided with human defenders, sparks flying as bullets met nanite blades. The hybridizers moved with uncanny coordination, their bodies enhanced by the very nanites they had once fought. Dahlia led a squad through the narrow alleys, firing a pulse rifle modified to emit electromagnetic bursts. Each shot fractured swarms of black rain, disrupting their cohesion. But for every swarm destroyed, two more took its place. We're holding, but just barely, Vikram reported over comms. Their numbers are overwhelming. Hold the line, Dahlia ordered. We have to protect the core. If Reclaimer goes down, everything's lost. Inside the bunker, Miko worked feverishly to maintain the AI's link to global nanite nodes. The Reclaimer was evolving in real time, analyzing battle data and adjusting its tactics. Suddenly, alarms blared. Sensors detected a massive breach. Hybridizers had infiltrated the command center. Security breach. Miko shouted, fingers flying over controls. They're here. Dahlia and Vikram raced toward the core room, weapons ready. The door hissed open, revealing a group of hybridizers armed with nano-enhanced blades and energy pistols. The fight was brutal. Metal clashed against flesh and synthetic armor as Dahlia and Vikram pushed back the intruders, buying precious time for Miko to secure Reclaimer's systems. One hybridizer lunged at Dahlia, blade glowing with nanite energy. She dodged, countering with a pulse blast that shattered his weapon and sent him crashing to the floor. Not today, she growled. With the intruders repelled, the team sealed the command center. But the cost was high, several fighters wounded, systems damaged. We can't hold forever, Vikram said, breathing heavily. Outside, the nanite storm shifted. The skies darkened, clouds swirling into a vortex that pulsed with an unnatural light. The hybridizer leader emerged, a towering figure fused with nanites from head to toe, eyes glowing with cold intelligence. This city will fall, he declared, voice amplified by nanite resonance. The future belongs to the Black Ray. Dahlia met his gaze, unflinching. The future belongs to those who fight for it. With a roar, the hybridizer unleashed a wave of nanite energy, sending shockwaves through the barricades. The resistance scrambled, deploying Reclaimer's drones to counter the attack. Nanite inhibitors spread through the air, slowing the onslaught and buying time. Miko's voice crackled over comms. Reclaimer is preparing a full-spectrum recalibration pulse. This will disrupt rogue nanite clusters but risks overloading local networks. Do it, Dahlia commanded. We have no other choice. The pulse rippled outward like a shockwave, sweeping across the battlefield. Nanite swarms faltered, their structures destabilizing. Hybridizers screamed as their bodies convulsed, nanite stripped away by the AI's code. For a moment, silence fell. The storm paused, as if caught between destruction and renewal. Then, slowly, the nanite clouds began to dissipate. The resistance cheered, but Dahlia remained cautious. Victory is not guaranteed, she reminded her team. The Black Rain adapts. We must be ready. As the first rays of dawn pierced the clouds, Dahlia looked out over Nova Arc, the battered but unbroken city. The siege had tested humanity's will, but it had also shown their strength. With Reclaimer guiding them, the fight for Earth's future was far from over. The battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. The siege was over, But the war was far from finished. The city lay in tatters, its streets littered with the remnants of shattered drones, smoldering debris, and the silent echoes of fallen heroes. Yet, amidst the destruction, a fragile hope had taken root, the spark that might ignite humanity's resurgence. Dahlia stood atop a makeshift platform overlooking the battered city square. Her eyes, weary but resolute, swept across the faces of survivors gathered to hear the words that would shape their future. The resistance fighters, scientists, engineers, and civilians alike all had come together in this moment of reckoning. "We have survived the darkest hour," Dahlia began, her voice steady and clear. "The black rain sought to consume us, to erase our legacy. But we stood firm. We fought with every ounce of strength, every fragment of hope, and we prevailed." A ripple of applause spread through the crowd, but Dahlia held up her hand, calling for silence. "The Reclaimer AI has proven to be more than a weapon. It is our partner, our shield, and our beacon. Together, we have halted the spread of the Nanite plague. But this is only the beginning." She gestured toward the towering structure that housed the Reclaimer core. The AI's pulsating light was a reminder of the alliance forged between humanity and technology, a fragile truce born from necessity. The Black Rain still exists. It will not be defeated overnight. But with Reclaimer's guidance, we will reclaim our world, piece by piece, city by city, continent by continent. In the crowd, Miko watched closely, her mind already racing through the logistics of rebuilding communications, restoring infrastructure, and expanding the Reclaimer network to stabilize other regions. The AI was evolving rapidly, learning from every encounter, growing stronger and wiser. Vikram stepped forward, his battle-worn face breaking into a rare smile. "We will rebuild, not just our cities, but our trust in each other, and in the future we choose to create." The gathering erupted into cheers, but beneath the jubilation lay the weight of hard truths. Many lives had been lost, families torn apart, and entire ecosystems ravaged by the Black Rain. The road ahead was steep and uncertain. Later, in the quiet of the command bunker, Dahlia and Miko reviewed data from the front lines. Reclaimer's network had expanded to cover nearly half the globe's hotspots. Resistance cells were regrouping, inspired by the victory at Nova Arc. But the hybridizers remain a threat, Miko warned. Their ideology still spreads among pockets of humanity. Some see the Nanites as salvation, not destruction. Dahlia nodded grimly. "We cannot fight only with weapons. We need to win hearts and minds." Plans were drawn to send envoys and educators into affected regions, to offer choices, to restore hope, and to counter the allure of synthetic evolution with stories of humanity's resilience. Meanwhile, Reclaimer began working on advanced countermeasures, nanite scramblers, protective biointerfaces, and protocols that could safely integrate technology with biology without surrendering human will. In this new era, technology would be a tool, not a master. Weeks turned into months. Nova Arc slowly came back to life. Gardens sprouted amid rubble, children played beneath the shadows of rebuilt walls, and marketplaces buzzed with tentative commerce. The scars of war were visible, but so was the determination to heal. Dahlia often walked through the city's streets, greeted by faces both familiar and new. Survivors who had fought beside her, families reunited, and newcomers drawn by the hope of a future reclaimed from darkness. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of gold and crimson, Dahlia stood at the city's edge, watching the horizon. The Reclaimer's light pulsed faintly in the distance, a reminder that their fight was ongoing, a call to vigilance. A transmission crackled through her calm. "Dahlia, you need to see this." Miko's voice was urgent yet controlled. On the holo display, images unfolded. A remote settlement deep in the mountains, where Black Rain nanites had been detected in unprecedented numbers. But alongside them were signs of life, resistance, and hope. Humans working with adapted technology to push back. "They're not just surviving," Miko said. "They're thriving, building a new kind of society." Dahlia smiled softly. "Then our story continues." She turned back toward Nova Arc, the city of shattered dreams made whole again, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. The dawn of a new era had arrived, one forged in fire, tempered by sacrifice, and illuminated by the promise that humanity, against all odds, would endure.